In a quiet nursing home, a cat named Oscar would pad down the hallway, slip into a room, and curl up beside one patient, and within hours, almost without fail, that patient would peacefully pass away. Oscar seemed to know, long before the doctors, when someone was nearing the end. He was not there to frighten anyone. He was there, it seemed, simply to keep them company. Stories like this exist all over the world. The dog who refuses to leave a sick armor's bedside, the pet who grows gentle and watchful in someone's final days. And it raises a question, both haunting and strangely beautiful. Do animals know when we are going to die? The answer is real. It is grounded in science, and it is far gentler and more comforting than you might think. Stay with me to the end. Let us begin. For as long as humans and animals have lived side by side, people have whispered about it. That sense that our animals seem to know things they should have no possible way of knowing. And nowhere does this feel more uncanny than at the end of a life. Ask around and you will be astonished how many people have a story of their own. The grandmother whose old dog for the first time in years climbed onto her bed the night before she passed and simply would not be moved. The cat who suddenly refused to leave a sick family member's side after a whole lifetime of keeping its distance. The pet who began behaving strangely days before anyone realized just how ill its owner truly was.
These stories cross every border and every culture. They have been told for centuries, long before anyone could begin to explain them. And for most of that time, we dismissed them as superstition or coincidence or the wishful thinking of grieving hearts. But in recent years, science has begun to take a serious and careful look. And what researchers are finding is that these animals may not be imagining anything at all. They may be sensing something profoundly real, something happening inside a dying body that we, with all of our machines and instruments, are only just learning how to detect. To understand how, we have to begin with the most famous example of all, a small gray cat who quietly changed the way an entire hospital thought about death. His name was Oscar, and he lived in a nursing home in the American state of Rhode Island, on a floor that cared for patients in the final stages of life. Oscar was not, by all accounts, a particularly affectionate cat. He mostly kept to himself, patrolling the corridors, tolerating attention, but rarely ever seeking it out. But over time, the staff began to notice something truly extraordinary. Every so often, Oscar would make his rounds, sniffing at a doorway, pausing, considering, and then he would enter one particular room and settle onto the bed beside one particular patient. He would curl up and he would stay. And almost every single time he did this, that patient would pass away within a matter of hours.
It happened again and again, dozens of times over, with an accuracy that astonished the doctors and nurses who worked there. Oscar seemed to sense the approach of death before even the trained medical staff could. In fact, the nurses came to trust him completely. When Oscar chose to keep vigil in a room, they knew that it was time to call the family. A doctor there, named David Dosa, was so struck by what he witnessed that he wrote about Oscar in a respected medical journal, and later in a book that touched readers all over the world. And here's the part that matters most of all. Oscar was not some creature of doom lurking wherever death was near. The families came to find deep comfort in him, because in a patient's final, lonely hours, no one ever had to be alone. There was always a warm, purring companion, keeping watch right until the very end. To the families who lost someone there, Oscar became not a sign of death, but a sign that love was still in the room. So how on earth did Oscar know? The leading explanation is not supernatural at all. It is something far more wondrous, precisely because it is real. It comes down to smell. We tend to forget what astonishing noses our animals possess. A dog's sense of smell is estimated to be tens of thousands of times more sensitive than our own. A cat's is extraordinary too. Where we might smell a single pot of stew, a dog smells every separate ingredient inside it, along with the pot, the steam, and the person who cooked it.
Their entire world is built of scents that we cannot even begin to imagine. And here is the crucial thing. When the body becomes very ill or begins to shut down at the end of life, its chemistry changes. Cells break down. The body releases faint new compounds into the air, subtle chemical signatures of illness and of dying. We cannot smell them. Our noses are simply far too weak. But to an animal, these changes may be as clear and as obvious as a ringing bell. And this is not a guess. We have proven that dogs can be trained to smell disease. There are dogs who can detect certain cancers by scent alone, sniffing them out with remarkable accuracy, sometimes earlier than our own medical tests can manage. If a dog can smell a tumor growing quietly inside a person, then it becomes far less mysterious that a cat like Oscar could smell the profound changes of a body in its final hours. What looks to us like a sixth sense may simply be a first sense, the sense of smell, turned up almost beyond belief. It is not that these animals see ghosts, it is that they can smell what we cannot, in a world far richer than our own. And this remarkable gift does not only appear at the very end of life. All around us, every day, animals are quietly sensing illness long before we humans have any idea at all.
There are dogs trained to live alongside people with diabetes who can smell the subtle shift in body chemistry the moment their owner's blood sugar drops to a dangerous level, and who will nudge and paw and refuse to be ignored until that person gets help. There are dogs who can sense an epileptic seizure coming minutes before it strikes, giving their owner precious time to find a safe place to lie down. And there are countless stories, more than you would ever believe, of an ordinary family pet who simply would not stop sniffing or pawing or pressing its nose against one particular spot on its owner's body. People who finally went to the doctor because of it and discovered an illness hidden in exactly the place where their dog had been so insistent. These animals were not predicting the future. They were not foretelling doom. They were doing something far more practical and far more loving. They were detecting a real physical change in the body of someone they cared about, and they were trying, in the only way they knew how, to tell us. Some of them have saved lives this way, dogs that simply would not give up until their person was safe, all because they noticed what no one else could. Before we go on, if this is fascinating you the way it fascinates me, take a moment to tap that like button. It truly helps these gentle explorations reach more people who love and wonder about animals the way you do. Now, let us go a little deeper.
But smell is only one part of the story, because our animals are reading us constantly in 100 other ways that we rarely ever stop to consider. Think about how well your pet already knows you. It knows the sound of your footsteps from halfway down the street. It knows the difference between your happy voice and your tired one. It can tell, the very moment you walk in the door, whether you have had a good day or a hard one, often before you have said a single word. Animals are extraordinary readers of the subtle signals that we ourselves are barely even aware we are giving off. Our posture, our breathing, the energy in our movements, the small changes in our daily routine. And when a person begins to decline, when they grow weaker and slower and quieter, when they spend more time resting in bed and less time moving through the house, every single one of those signals begins to shift. The whole rhythm of a life starts to change, and the animal, who has spent every single day of its life memorizing that rhythm, notices it immediately. Something is different. Something is not right. They may not have a word for it. They may not understand at all what is coming, but they feel with their entire being that the person they love is somehow not the same. And so they do the one thing they have always known how to do. They draw closer, and they watch, and they wait. They become a quiet shadow, never far, as if some part of them has decided not to waste a single moment.
This brings us to the question that lingers underneath all of it, the one that we cannot fully answer. Do animals actually understand what death is? When a cat like Oscar keeps his quiet vigil, does he truly know, in any way we would recognize, that this person is about to die? Here we have to be honest and very gentle. The truth is that we simply do not know. We cannot ask him. We cannot climb inside his mind. It is entirely possible that Oscar did not understand death at all in the way that we do. Perhaps he simply sensed that something was deeply different, that this person had grown weak and still and was giving off an unfamiliar scent, and that they needed nothing more than quiet, gentle company. Perhaps to him, it was never about death at all. Perhaps it was only ever about comfort. And honestly, does that matter? Whether or not an animal grasps the great mystery of ways happening, the response we see, again and again, is exactly the same. They do not run away from the dying. They do not seem frightened by it the way that we so often are. Instead, they move toward it. They settle in close. They offer their warmth and their quiet presence to a person in their most vulnerable hour. And there is a wisdom in that, a gentle grace, that perhaps we, who fear death so very deeply, have something to learn from, after all. They meet the dying not with dread, but with devotion. And it is not only our deaths that animals seem to sense.
Many people who have loved an animal all the way to the very end have noticed something tender and mysterious in the way that animals approach their own passing too. An old cat who, in her final days, slips quietly away to a hidden, peaceful corner of the house, seeking solitude and calm. A dog who grows still and serene, who seems somehow to know, and who meets the end without the terror that grips so many of us. We cannot know exactly what passes through them in those final hours, but what we observe so very often is not panic, it is a kind of quiet acceptance. Animals do not appear to spend their whole lives dreading death the way that we do. They do not lie awake at night, frightened of a future that has not yet even arrived. They live fully in each day that they are given, and when the last one finally comes, they tend to meet it with a calm that can take our very breath away. And there is something deeply comforting in this, if we will only let there be, because these are not creatures pretending to be brave. They simply do not carry the heavy burden of fear that we have carried for so long. And in watching how peacefully they let go, we may just catch a glimpse of a gentler way to face the one thing that comes in the end for us all. Perhaps they understand something we have long forgotten, that the end of a life is not only a thing to be feared. So, do animals know when we are going to die?
The honest answer is that they very likely do sense it, in their own remarkable way, through a nose and an attentiveness so far beyond our own that it can feel like pure magic. But here, at the very end, is the part that truly matters, and it is not frightening in the slightest. It may be the most beautiful piece of the whole story. Because think about what these animals actually do with that knowing. Oscar did not avoid the dying, he sought them out, and he stayed. The faithful dog does not flee the sick room, he climbs up onto the bed and refuses to leave. It is as though, faced with the one thing we dread most, they answer with the one thing they do best, which is simply to love. No fear could ever be stronger than that. When death draws near, our animals do not look away, the way that we so often long to. They draw closer. Whatever it is they understand, their response to it is never fear. It is love. It is presence. It is the simple, profound decision to be there, to keep watch, to make certain that no one they love ever has to face that final passage all alone. We spend so much of our lives afraid of dying, and perhaps even more afraid of dying alone. And here, all along, has been one of the gentlest comforts this whole world has to offer, that the faithful creature at your side may well know before you do when your time is drawing near, and that knowing, it will not run from you.
It will lie down beside you and rest its head and stay with you right until the very end. That is not something to be afraid of. That is the truest love there is. If this moved you, then you already understand the quiet, faithful kind of love we have been talking about today. So tell us in the comments below, has an animal ever sensed an illness in you or in someone you love, or stayed close by through someone's final days? Share their story with us. We read every single one, and there is nothing more moving than this community honoring the creatures who have watched over them so tenderly. And if you would like more of these gentle journeys into the hidden inner world of animals, what they sense, what they feel, and what they understand about us, then subscribe and stay close, because there is so much more wonder still waiting just ahead. Thank you for being here with us today.
And until the next one, hold the ones you love, whether they have 2 legs or 4, just a little bit closer.